computer away.
Let's go. It's time. Put on play pants.
You're gonna go. You're gonna go ahead.
We're doing another podcast. I think maybe we kind of weren't doing them anymore. Hey, it's episode 73. Welcome into Play Pants. He's Jason Ginty. My name is Rod Ryan, and we are back after an extended Christmas break. Happy New Year, everybody. Episode 73. So obviously we got to do a little catching up. It's not like Jason and I talk every day. So we do got to catch up a little bit. Our last podcast and the last time that we spoke was December 14th. We can maybe get into a little football, a lot going on with the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, everybody's been kind of following the Damar Hamlin story. Foo Fighters announcing shows right now and not announcing a drummer. I want to get your thoughts on that. Jazz Fest announces on Friday. I know you feel the same way as I. We're hoping that the Foo Fighters are a part of that announcement. And then this morning, as we are recording this on January 11, Loudwire came out with, I thought was a really, really good list, top 30 grunge albums of all time, and they didn't do so bad. I guess all I have a problem with is like stuff in order, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to maybe take what they put out, and you can put it in your top five. I'll put it in my top five. I don't agree with the order that they did, but they hit all the big albums for sure. I didn't see any glaring misses on their list. So we got that to talk about, and I'm sure a lot more. Hey, Jason, how are you? How were your holidays?
Dude, the holidays, it's a wonderful time of the year, especially if you have children, especially young children. It's all about the kids, man. It's all about those kids. You know, when you're a kid, it's fun until you get to a certain age and you're like, okay, this is boring now. But then when you have kids, and you know this, your kid's like right in the perfect age for all the eating of the cookies and the baking and the presents. Oh, the presents. I get joy out of getting the presents to a kid. Like my children, getting them presents, that was actually way cooler than getting them when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a great thing, man. Glad they're over and we can move on. No, it really is. It was a great time. I had family in town. We had a nice time. Got to see some sights, hang out, spend some quality time. It was good, man. It was very, very good. A couple things over the holidays, Rod, I want to bring up real quick. New Year's Eve, some friends of ours got a condo downtown New Orleans, right? And they said, hey, let's have a party. And I'm like, awesome. Let's do a party at your house because then I don't have to clean shit up. You know how it is when you host a party. You do it often.
But if they got a place downtown, there is a ball drop in New Orleans, and it's beautiful, kind of recognized with Ryan Seacrest and that sort of thing. So, of course, they got a host.
It's a big deal. So we go there, and they've only been in the place literally like 3 days. They're still getting furniture delivered and shit, right? Go over there, food, drink, dance, go out to the Mississippi River, you know, and they have a huge fireworks display at midnight. We check all that out. Beautiful. It was so badass, right? Coming back, and they got an elevator. They're on like the 8th or 9th floor of the building. So a bunch of people get in, and I was lagging behind with some other friends and family members and stuff. Everyone goes up. I get into the bottom, hit the button on the elevator, click, 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 click. It's not lighting up. There's nothing going on. Click, 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 click. Nothing going on. Nothing happening. I'm like,
you're in the elevator.
I was outside the elevator trying to get on the elevator.
Gotcha.
My wife, my in-laws, my son, my sister-in-law, and her 2-year-old, and a bunch of other friends. There's a lot of people jammed in this elevator. I get a phone call. Hey, what's up? I'm like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm standing outside the elevator. It's not lighting up. I don't know. I might have to take the stairs. And my wife goes, yeah, that's because we're stuck in it.
Oh,
dude, no. It's 1:00 in the morning. Everyone's been drinking all night. There's 11 people in this elevator. By the way, just so you know, not overweight, totally cool. Somehow they had an electrical failure in the elevator and it got stuck in between floors. So what do? What do? You start, there's usually phone numbers on the elevator. Hey, if you're stuck, call this number. Of course, it's New Year's Eve. Who's going to answer that shit, right?
Right.
Nobody. So my friend, she calls 911. She's like, hey, listen, I know this is not exactly an emergency, but I don't know who else to call in this situation. So don't freak out. I'm in an elevator and I'm stuck. Dude, within 10 minutes, the fire department was there. You know, 10 dudes show up. go up. They do some electrical shit. There's like a key for an elevator door. They open it up, get the peeps out, all good. Electrical failure. I'm like, and that was like an hour. By the time you do everything, that was an extra hour at 1 o'clock in the morning. Have you ever been stuck on an elevator for real?
Never. Taken a million of them, and I hate when people bring it up. I don't have any fear of it. I don't think about it. It's never in my thought process. But have you been around people that every time they get in an elevator, they fucking mention, oh, geez, I hope we don't get stuck? I don't even think like that. I feel confident in every elevator that I've ever been in, that it's going to get me to where I need to go. So no, I've never been stuck in one, and I never brought it up.
No,
I never introduced the topic. We worked with a guy, Vince used to bring that up all the time. Well, when Vince was a guy that brought us to New Orleans, when we first moved there, we worked on the 42nd floor. And a lot of times we would all be at the same time kind of coming in. You and I would always come in together, but a lot of times we'd run into him and we'd be going up the same time. And or if we went to lunch, we all went down, went out to eat, and went back up. And I feel like every fucking time he was in there, like, oh, I hope we don't get stuck. Like, it never came out of my mouth once. I don't think about it.
That elevator used to go up and you could hear it and it would bang off the walls as it was going up. So, I mean, that elevator, I actually did not always feel super safe in that one. But yeah, I've never really been stuck for more than 30 seconds. But yeah, they're all stuck in the elevator. So my son, he's 14. He kind of got a little concerned. He had a little bit of, holy crap, this is scary, Yeah. And he got worried. He got a little weirded out by it. Understandable. So I got to go get my car, get everybody loaded in the car, but I'm parked down the street in a different parking ramp that I didn't even think about it. I go, hey man, why don't you come with me, get some air, chill out. Let's talk it out. We'll go to get my car. We'll come back. We'll pick up the family and we'll go back home. He's like, absolutely. I could use the walk. Nice night out. We're walking through the city. It's wild as shit. Get to the parking garage. And I go, oh shit. Sorry. We got to get in the elevator to go.
Oh, little P.
He goes, I got PTSD from the fucking elevator. I go, sorry, buddy.
So you got in the elevator to go. I mean, you could have taken the stairs, I'm sure, right?
I said, you got to get back on that horse. You got to get right back on. You got to get right in there. Go for it. And, it is what it is. But yeah, stuck on the elevator. First hour of a brand new year. Everyone's keyed up and they're stuck on an elevator. And I don't believe into I'm not into black cats and all that weird shit but man, that one kind of makes you think for a second, like, oh shit, what's this year going to bring? First hour of the new year and you're stuck on an elevator, pretty wild shit. Yeah. Happy New Year. That was a great start to it all. And then, it all fell apart after that. So anyway, hopefully you had a better New Year's Eve than I did.
New Year's Eve, I got the kid. We got illegal fireworks.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I bought one of those campfire stoves, that the silver stainless steel one you see on
every
Facebook.
ad, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Smokeless. No. Is there smoke? Yes. But yeah, no, just a little fire outside, beers with the neighbors, kids running around. And I'm the guy that had not only illegal fireworks, but my 4.5-year-old was up till about 1 a.m. Sweet. She made it, man. All the kids were still wound up. So let them stay, let them hang out, so it was cool. I did not make any thought in my mind that I was going to be up to midnight and we were, so that was fun. So it was a great way to bring in the new year. So the holidays were good. I stuck around here and then spent a lot of time with the kid here and then, right back to work. And then I'm in that weird time coming back to work. I'm in the last year of my contract. So they're I went out to lunch yesterday and hey, do you still want to work here? And I'm like, yeah, I still want to work here. You having fun? I'm like, yeah, I'm having fun. I go, when I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do this anymore. So yeah, all that New Year stuff, my contract is on the new year. It's a calendar. It starts with the year. So I'm in the last year of my contract here. So I am in season, if this was Ellen, I'm in season 20 here, dude.
Holy shit.
So 19 years done. You can't run around saying, you got to do 20 years to say, hey, I've been here 20 years. You got to put in. So I still got to work this whole year before I can run around and say 20. But it's in the 20th season. It's crazy, dude. 19 years. was the last time you and I did a morning show together?
Fuck, it feels like 19 years ago.
It's a long time.
It feels like 19 years ago. It's insane, man. We still look the same. Totally look the same. Not to get into details or anything, Rod, but like, and we can use this as like sports, because we talk a lot of sports, is like, you know, when you get into a situation like this, and this isn't, not everybody gets this opportunity like you have, okay?
Right.
Or sports guys. Let's just use an athlete.
Use me. I don't care. I'll tell you.
They've been doing well. They've been doing well. Like how hard can you lean in? You know what I mean? Like there's a balance, obviously. You can't be an idiot and go, oh, I want double what I make. You know what I mean? You can't do that. Okay. But can you lean in? Like, do you feel like you can lean a little extra at this point in your career? You got to be like, oh, careful and shit, or do you not care? I mean, like how do you approach something like that?
So,
and the bosses aren't listening. It's cool.
Let's go back. Yeah. I don't even know if they know I do a podcast.
I don't think anybody does.
So think about like a rookie. A rookie he gets drafted and signs a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option, right?
Right.
So and you get him for whatever you get him, depending on what round he was in. Let's just say you take some guy in the 3rd round, but then he turns out to be a stud. Okay. He's going to bank on that next contract. That's going to be his biggest contract. That's the freaky thing about Von Miller. Because Von Miller, when he came to Buffalo, that's his second $100 million contract.
Jeez.
If you're lucky enough to get a $100 million contract, and this is just football now, it's easier to talk in football terms. Von Miller there's very few guys that have signed 2 $100 million contracts. Usually you get that one real big one. If you work your first contract and you kill it, that's where you sign a big one. And then you're usually on the downslope of your career and you get decent money. But Von Miller got killer money twice. So we're doing really, really good. You know, I went for the jugular about 10 years ago, where I went for that huge jump. I'm like, okay, it's really working here. Probably longer than 10 years ago. It's really, really working here. So that's where I went and I had my big jump. And they offered me something and I went, this is way low. I'm going to come at you with something, sit down, and then boom. So I threw this crazy number at them. And then now I just, I don't kill them. But what I do is I come up with creative things. You can do some creative things with bonuses. You can always ask for more time off. You find other ways to, hey, you know what? Because they don't mind paying you bonuses because that means you're doing good.
Right.
So it's just when you hit them with that salary, it's like, ugh. So
yeah.
We've been doing this long enough where we kind of expect, they said like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, you know how this works. You give me an offer and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah. Ball's in your court.
So I always do that. I always make them offer me something. And again, my situation, I don't know if it's how unique it is, but I know that I do it myself and I don't have an agent, which is crazy.
Right.
Which is insane on this level to do it myself. But I don't know. I like the guys that I work with. They're honest. I'm talking about the higher ups and everything that I deal with. So yeah, we go out for a steak dinner and we hash it out, and we don't yell or anything like that. And nobody gets their feelings hurt. Well, I do sometimes get my feelings hurt a little bit, but I kind of not cool. I'm like, well, nobody's going to get their feelings hurt. Let's go. Let's just go ahead. Shoot for the moon here.
It's hard.
Nobody likes being told no. But I'm like, okay, well, if no on that, then here's this is my backup. So I always have a backup for like, okay, if he's going to say no on this, well then boom, he's not going to want to tell me no twice. So here's my second thing.
No, that's smart because I've had the reason I'm programming radio stations, I got a phone call out of the blue and I was like, well, okay. And you and I talked a bit about it. I said, hey, what do I do? And you're like, bro, they called you. Ball's in your court. Yeah. They called you.
We talked for a while about that.
Yeah. You're like, swing. And I go, so I did. And, it was good. It was fine. And I obviously took the gig. And then my brother got an opportunity. And he was kind of in the same situation where an opportunity popped up. And he's like, what do I do? And I go, fucking swing. I go, you don't get these opportunities very often. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's coming for you, swing a little harder than you feel comfortable with, swing just that a little outside of the comfort zone. And if they come back at you, you're still going to be okay. You know, it's hard. It's hard when you're talking your own personal money. And this goes for anybody with any job. But if someone comes after you, man, that's when you got to go, all right, it's definitely not time to be a pussy.
The radio station, we had a classic rock station, we had us, and then, we've got about 6 stations here. Well, at the time, the classic rock guys had just left. My contract was up, and I'm like, they do not want to lose both. So when they went across the street, I just said, okay, I'm the ace in your deck right now. Wow. So that's where I went. And when you said about like being uncomfortable, they made me an offer here. And I said, well, I'm kind of thinking here. And you remember, oh man, what's the Tom Hanks movie with the Da Vinci Code? And that guy's got that cincher on him where he's like,
he's just like,
so before I say the number, I'm squeezing my leg and I'm like, don't puss out. Do not puss out. And I'm like, I got that cincher thing. I'm like, kind of cranking it.
Your own back and shit.
And I say this stupid number. And he goes, I'll call it in. He goes, I'll call it in, because,
wow.
It does got to go to corporate. It's got to go to New York and everything. And so you do have to go for it. I mean, you do. And I acted cool. I was not feeling cool on the inside. I was pukey beforehand. And then I was super ecstatic afterwards. I mean, I left that office and I went in another room and I fucking screamed. I'm like, okay, there's very few moments. I don't mean make this sound morose. There's very few moments that I'm like really proud of myself or I pat myself on the back. I just don't do it. It's just, you just do what you do. That was one of those moments I'm like, okay, way to nut up, bro. Way to get in there and do it. Because
Brooks
was freaking. And then even at the last minute, I was going to like shave some off and I'm like, fuck this. I'm just going to do it.
You got to do it. Like Herb Brooks at the Miracle. Remember? He beats the Russians and he goes and sneaks down that little hallway and he's just like, yes. And that was all he would let himself do. That was it. I'm like, that's it, bro. You just beat the Russians, man. And that was it.
Another game.
That was it. Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah. So if you're negotiating with the boss, go for it. Don't be an idiot, but also read the tea leaves. Like you had an opportunity when those other guys left. You're like, okay, there's some tea leaves here. Know what you're doing. Because I mean, this negotiating for salary and shit, it comes up all the time. And when you get yourself in that situation, it's different. We can sit here going back and forth like this. I'm talking like a fucking no big deal, right? But when I called you, I'm like, what do I fucking do? I don't know what to do. Like I was freaking. But I can sit here and now talk about it freely, like no big deal. But when you're in those shoes, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Because, this does come up from time to time, and we do talk about this. And you gotta know, like you said, you gotta like kind of read the room a little bit. You gotta know where you're at. And I get it. I think everybody that's listening to this podcast right now wants more money. Okay, of course you do. But do you deserve more money? Hang on a second. You can't just blindly say you deserve more money. Why do you deserve more money? What are you bringing to the table? What is it that you're doing? Now, for you and I, we have ratings and, we get this fucking report card, which is great when you're doing well. When you're not doing so well, it sucks. And if it's the timing of it is if you're not, doing great at the time that you're asking for money, it makes it a little tougher. When you're on top of the world, then you ask for the world. So I know that not everybody has like a metric like that at their job, but still you have to be able to prove your worth. So you don't have ratings at your job, but man, you got to sell yourself and say, this is why I deserve more money. It's not just, I want more money. You can't just go in there like an idiot and say, I want more money.
No,
you got to really sell yourself. And then you got to kind of know the timing of it too. So because I'm with my contract and the way that it is, this is like the worst time to ask for money for what we do, because budgets are set. I'm going to be asking for a contract because I have this whole year that'll start next year with with radio, they're doing their budgets for the next year in September.
Right.
If you're going to ask for money, then you go see them at the end of summer as they're getting ready to do budgets. But once that budget is set, boom, they're like, no, everything's been approved. Here it is. It's October and the budget is set for next year. So you got to kind of know a little bit about your company too. And how, what's their time frame on doing that sort of thing?
Yeah, you just gotta. At the end of the day, my mom always told me that when I was growing up, she's like, just don't be afraid of no. If you don't take your shot, what are you gonna get? You know what I mean? You got to go for it sometimes. So, well, good luck. We're counting on you. Don't fuck it up, okay? We want nice parties at your house when we come to Houston and stuff. So let's keep this going. All right.
Oh, are you coming to Houston? When you coming, bro? I'll reserve you the room.
Dude, I know I said it. I know I've said it 1,000 times. I got to make it happen. That being said, I can't tell you how many years ago I'm watching football and I'm like, guys get injured all the time on the field, right? And you know where I'm going with this, but I remember thinking to myself, these guys get hit so freaking hard in the face, in their head, these helmet to helmet collisions, and they're hauling ass at each other. And I'm like, what happens if somebody like breaks their neck on the field and dies on the field? What does the NFL do? What do they do? And I've been thinking about that for years. Like, is there a backup plan? Is there a contingency plan if something like that happens on the field? And we found out the other night with Damar Hamlin, didn't look like there was much of one. When that guy got hit and dropped and had the heart attack or had the his heart stop and CPR and stuff. That shit was wild. And I've been thinking about that subconsciously for years. Like, fuck, what happens?
Well, there is a plan, and there always has been a plan. There has to be X amount of people there. There has to be there. The NFL does have something in place.
Sure, they got ambulances and shit all over the place. Yeah. No, I've seen
correct. That. So there is absolutely it's written up somewhere, like protocols. There are protocols for everything. Even at concert venues, there's protocols. They have this stuff. There are manuals. Here's what happens if this happens. So there absolutely is that stuff. But you're right. We hadn't seen this before. No. This type of injury. I was watching when Joe Theismann's leg got broke, and it was horrific, and Lawrence Taylor was crying. Like, Lawrence Taylor was like the meanest badass dude in the NFL, and he was crying because he's looking at this guy and he's like, man, I probably ruined this guy's career is over with, Even that, something was completely different about this. The reaction of the players, the way that they circled around him, and, Bills have always had this thing, circle the wagons, but it's like cameras out, get all the players in, rally around the family, pocket full of shells, and they just tended to their brother. And we didn't know what they were seeing because Joe Buck and Troy Aikman had no idea what was going on. And they were just kind of guessing to their best ability, and they were throwing it to Susie Colbert. I mean, it was a weird broadcast. I really watched the broadcast because I wanted to see how they were going to handle it. Doing what we do for a living, you can't take yourself out of that situation.
No.
Okay, what are they going to do? I mean, Susie Colbert, I think, is this amazing broadcaster, and she didn't know what to say. So they threw it back to the state, to the studio, and then, she's kind of, you can tell she's shook, and she throws it over, and you got to throw it to Booger McFarland because he's the guy that played football, okay? And you're not going to throw it to Adam Schefter. You're going to throw it to the guy that played football. And Booger McFarland said, I don't have the words. And that's it. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
But he didn't help her out at all. Now she's got to go back and talk. And she already didn't know what to say. Booger McFarland, I get it. You were shook and everything, but as a broadcaster, you got to help your colleague out, man. You heard her fumbling. She passed you the ball, and all you did was throw it right back at her, and then they went over to Adam. But everything was different about this. Everything was different. The amount of time, none of us, you and I have, in our time, we've never seen an ambulance on the field. We've seen plenty of guys get carted off.
Oh, yeah.
But never seen an ambulance on the field. Boy, it was different. It was different.
It was brutal.
When it first happened, I'm like, okay, it never even entered my mind that they weren't going to play the game. It never entered my mind that they weren't going to play the game. And then I started thinking, when I saw everybody and the Bills side and how just absolutely destroyed they were, they don't know what his future is. If the worst happens and these guys are out there playing football, sure, they're there playing the game. Word's going to get to them. Everyone's got a cell phone in that stadium. Then I said, you can't play until you know what's going on with that guy. You cannot play that game. But at first I was thinking, wow, I've never seen a game canceled like that before. It hasn't.
Not for that reason. Yeah, I think that you have to. I thought the in the booth, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, and then even the ESPN, back in the studio, they got it going. And I thought for that situation, they did handle it quite well, I thought. I mean, what are you going to talk about? All they're doing is panning around the crowd, trying not to show anything, but yet show us something. They're trying to fumble around. Like, it's when you're in that situation, though, they always, the old adage, just keep flying the plane. You ain't got no landing gear. Keep flying the plane till you figure out how to fucking land the plane.
You don't want to say anything wrong now. And it's a different time. It's a different time.
So careful. So damn careful.
If you misspeak and then you become a soundbite and you say something that is completely insensitive. Look, Skip Bayless put out a tweet. Okay.
Right.
And it wasn't a great tweet, but I don't think that he deserved all of the backlash that he got. And I did say that, and I backed him up. I don't care about Skip Bayless. I do think he's a jackass, as a matter of fact.
Right.
But I didn't think, people were coming after him with pitchforks. When you're live and you're right there and you got to keep that thing afloat, you do worry about it as a broadcaster. You do not want to say the wrong thing. It was interesting. It was interesting. Damar Hamlin doing well, released from Buffalo General today. So going home, still has a lot of work to do. But, man, the stuff leading up to it, my takeaway from this whole thing was everybody was on the same page. We were united. And we haven't been united like this, I don't know, since whenever. It seems like it's been maybe since 9/11. I don't remember everybody being on the same page and just wanting the best for somebody. And it didn't matter what team he played for. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter. Politics didn't play into this at all. Everybody was on the same page with this. And Damar mentioned that. He's like, man, you guys united. And I all that love was, not lost on me. So trying to make some kind of a good out of this, shitty situation.
What I think is really important that, there's lessons here. And we always try to take lessons from everything, and at least I do. And it's like, I'm watching the two coaches and I'm like, these are some leaders. These are leaders. These are coaches, sure, but they're also leaders, and they got thrown into that situation. You got all your guys on your bench. You're trying to keep them hyped up to play the game, but now you got this crazy situation unfolding and you got to figure it out. And those two guys are good leaders. They came together immediately, it looked like, and said, hey, what the fuck are we going to do? You couldn't hear what they were saying, but it's kind of what you saw happening. And I just thought those two coaches just handled it. Not all leaders are good, man. Like if you had other coaches on the field in that situation, how do you think that would have went? It's like, man, when you pick people to lead in a workplace or whatever, there's a lot more to it than just playing football. We all get caught up in the game. Oh, they suck. They suck this. You don't know. Every one of those players has got kids and wives and girlfriends and God knows what else going on. All those people, just like employees, bring all that to work every day. You're not just playing that football game. There's a lot of management going on.
And that's where I said Booger McFarland, the only opinion that mattered and the only person that could really speak to it would be somebody that was on the field to talk about the brotherhood of football players. And that's why at the end of a game, when I absolutely hate the Patriots and it's like, I hate them going over and shaking hands, and that's work to them, and those are their friends over there and people that they went to college with. And, and they're shaking hands and say, hey man, we did it. We entertained people. Nobody got hurt. Hey man, good game. Great. Boom. It's their job. They don't feel the way that we do. So when this happened, the only opinion that mattered was somebody that played the game to talk about, hey, this is what these guys are going through. and this is how you feel in a situation like this. And
it's hard to believe. Hard to believe that the guy named Booger couldn't come up with something to say. You know what I mean? Like, I'm blown away that there's a dude on TV and his name is Booger.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, I'm just like, yeah, they thought that was going to be a good idea. Now, he's pretty good at what he does. I'm not knocking him for that, but
he needed to be better in that moment.
Is his name like Roy or something? And he just thinks that Booger's a better thing? It's just crazy to me that he goes by that. But hey, whatever. You do you, bro.
I don't know where all that came from. So Bills, Dolphins, Sunday at noon.
Should I be scared? Because, man, we lost to him, and then we barely beat him in that snow game. Why am I freaking out?
You should be freaking out. I don't know this Buffalo Bills team is as good as everybody says they are. But Tua is not playing. So their starting quarterback is not in. So, I mean, I think the point spread is like 20 points, dude, and something like that. I mean, there's no gimme, but the Bills should take care of business and they should be fine on Sunday.
God,
all right. Foo Fighters announced a bunch of shows this week. What they did not announce is a drummer. Is that out of order? I mean, Dave Grohl's going to be Dave Grohl. I mentioned on the air that I said something to him about songs in order or something. And he said in the interview, he goes, I've been doing set lists since I was 20. So basically he's saying, hey, radio boy, I know how to put together a set list. So I'm not questioning Dave Grohl. I want to be on the record as that. But do you find it odd that they have announced concerts and not the drummer when I don't think you say yes to these gigs without knowing who's going to be behind the drums? They know who their drummer is. Why are they waiting? Why are they announcing shows and not the drummer?
You already explained it because we're talking about it, man. It's brilliant. Foo Fighters camp. Their management team is so tight. They are one of the tightest operations in the history of rock and roll. Leaks don't get out with the Foo Fighters. Nothing gets out, right? Taylor passes away. That shit got shut down, right? Nothing came out, right? Yep. Nothing official's ever come out. You know, it's all speculation on how he passed away. So that is the tightest band. That is the tightest unit. And they know who it is. But this has got everybody talking about it. I don't know if they're really thinking of it that way, but somehow I think that they got a PR person who's pretty smart going, announce the shows, but don't say who the drummer is, because all those dorks on the radio are going to talk the shit out of it. It's going to be all over social media, and it's going to be all the clicks, and it's going to help sell tickets. Is that in their wheelhouse of thought?
I don't think so. I think you and I and a handful of people that listen are probably nerdy enough to, be real. I don't think the rest of the world really cares who's playing drums.
Man, the Foo Fighters are such a different band because everyone knew Taylor in the band. It's a rare case where you actually knew the drummer, So it's going to be Josh Freese, right? I keep saying
it's going to be Josh Freese.
Here's why I don't know if it'll be Josh Freese. I was talking to a guy a few months ago, and he knows. And I don't want to go on the record too hard here because it was just us girls talking, so I don't want to go too far. But let's just say there's another drummer in a band that rhymes with Earl Pam. That doesn't really want to be in the band anymore. He wants to go on and do other shit, apparently. But he keeps getting called up, and he's like, yeah, I'll go on tour. I'll play Alive again and again and again for all that money. But he wants to go out and do other shit. So it was explained to me that Josh Freese is kind of sitting in the wings, just waiting to go and be out there with, the Alive and the 10 CD guys, So it's like Josh Freese is waiting to go for that. I think Rufus Taylor's got the gig personally. And we talked about that in an episode after I came back from LA and saw the show. There was this moment where they just looked like they locked in. Like, I get it when bands jam on stage, it's a little premeditated and stuff, and you kind of go through it, but it looked fucking special. So
can we back up to something that you said earlier?
Sure.
You think Matt Cameron is going to be the drummer?
No, he's going to leave Pearl Jam, and Josh Freese is going to go drum with Pearl Jam. Eventually.
Matt
I'm not
Cameron
saying today.
So, okay.
Here,
Matt
let me back
Cameron-
up.
Okay, but here's where you left me hanging, though. Matt Cameron's not going to leave Pearl Jam to go to Foo Fighters.
No. I want. Yeah. No.
Okay, you
I want to
needed
make
to
that
make
clear.
that clear.
Yeah. Let me make that clear.
Okay.
The conversation I had was basically this: Matt Cameron loves playing in Pearl Jam, loves it, but he wants to do other shit. He's like a jazz drummer, and he wants to go and do other projects. He's got solo stuff he does, which I hear is pretty good actually. And it's been talked about kind of behind the scenes for years that eventually he wants to get out of that and do other shit. And then it's always been talked about that Josh Freese would go in and be the Pearl Jam guy.
Okay.
Which
Now that
leaves
makes
the
sense.
door
What the
open.
hell?
Which leaves the door open for Rufus Taylor, who's the drummer for the Darkness. Okay, nothing. I'm not going to shit on the Darkness. I like Justin Hawkins, right? Like the band, but Foo Fighters a little bigger, and he just looks, And what is it like? Like you start doing the lineage, and it is a little too neat, personally.
But is it a distraction to have somebody back there that looks just like Taylor? His dad is the drummer of Queen, which was,
Taylor's hero,
Taylor's favorite band. I mean, he looks like him. He's got his tattoo. I don't know. Is it weird to put him in there?
Or do they just go random, like some dude you didn't ever hear of before, and they're like, "Yeah, this will make it easy on everybody. We'll just get this random dude."
No, somebody had to be up on stage, and it clicked. Somebody had to be up on stage with those two tribute shows. It's not going to be rando. I don't think. I can't
imagine. It's not going to be Taylor Hawkins' kid. It's just not.
No,
not.
Absolutely not. 100%.
He's too young. He's got his own shit to do. They don't want to do that.
Okay.
I'm hanging my head on Rufus. I could be wrong, but I really think it's going to be Rufus Taylor. And I think they're going to announce on Friday that the Foo Fighters end up playing Jazz Fest because they were supposed to play it. And then it got canceled for COVID. And then they were supposed to play it again when it was rescheduled. And then Taylor passes away. So they might be looping around and do us a solid here in New Orleans. We'll find out on Friday.
They canceled 2 shows. Because remember, they canceled the regular Jazz Fest, and then they were going to do Jazz Fest in October, and they were on that bill, and that one got canceled as well.
Right.
So they canceled 3 times in a row now.
Right. And the Chili Peppers played for them last year, or this past spring. So yeah, if I was going to guess, I would say Foo for Jazz Fest this year, and Rufus Taylor will be behind the drum set. Those are my 2 guess. I have no inside information on any of those things, by the way. Those are just educated. What I think is going to happen.
You just fucking gave us inside information that you didn't want to give us, but you gave it to us.
Yeah, boy, you really sweated me down for that info. Don't ever tell me secrets. I could never work with terrorists. They'd come out with the pliers and go even close to my fingernails. I'm like, what do you need to know? I got you.
I'll tell you everything. This guy rolls over quicker than anybody. So
I will roll
over. The shows that Foo Fighters are playing, I believe, Bonnaroo, Boston Calling, which is a really good lineup, man. That's a cool looking show. Bonnaroo looks good. What looks horrible? Coachella. I don't know if you saw that lineup. I mean, just call it Instagram Cella or influencer Cella or something. What is that? I get it. We're old. I get it. But man, there's just no rock element at all. It's just Coachella. If I ever once in the back of my head, maybe back, 15 years ago, maybe Coachella would be one of those things to kind of knock off my list. That bypassed me. I'm done. You will not see me ever at that festival. It's again, super old, but man, that lineup blows.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot there. And you're going to go out in the desert and get a bunch of dust in your dick hole and watch these bands you never heard of? No, thanks, said the old man. I don't want to have that. Yeah, Coachella looks bad. Bonnaroo looks pretty damn good, though. So Bonnaroo's been kind of lame for a few years. But this lineup looks good. So I'm holding out some hope for a decent jazz fest here in New Orleans coming up last weekend in April, first weekend in May. Start booking your tickets now to come to the city, have some fun. Right. I want to bring this up before we take a break and get into our grunge albums, Rod. I was walking down my stairs going out to work the other day, right? And we've got a lot of photographs from vacations and weird moments in life through the family, right? All the way down the staircase.
Photograph.
Yeah. And it's, and I just happened to look to the right one day and I see a picture of me.
Yeah.
and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Okay, I was in Italy, got to go see that.
Are
Beautiful.
you holding it up like a jackass?
Yeah, everyone does. You got to hold up like this on our YouTube channel. Look for Playpants Pod on our YouTube channel, and you put your hand on it so you get the picture. It makes it look like you're holding it up because oh my god, it could fall down. Every dickhead does it. Everyone around the place is doing the same picture. So I look.
It doesn't make it okay. Okay, it doesn't make it all right.
No. You got to do touristy shit, right? So I'm looking at the picture. And I look down and I'm wearing the same fucking shirt I'm wearing in the picture. I went to Italy like 12 years ago and I got the same shirt on as I do in the picture. So it brings me to this question.
Like that dumb flannel you're wearing right now?
No, this is new. I got this one recently. What's the oldest piece of clothing that you own that you still wear a few times a year? Like, do you have some really old ass shirts?
Yeah, I have a Buff State shirt that I wore when I went there.
Wow.
It's a t-shirt. It is so raggedy. It is so disgusting. And that's not even the oldest. I have a sweatshirt that's older than that.
Jesus.
I have a sweatshirt it's a Nike. It was black at one point. Now it's just light gray. It's got some holes in it. It's got some moth holes in it. It's so comfortable.
But you still will just bust it out like a normal shirt. You don't think about it. You just put it on.
It is from the year 1990. I have a sweatshirt from 1990 that I still wear.
Jesus Christ.
You knew who you were coming to when you asked this type of question.
Yeah, it's kind of loaded. A little bit loaded.
So the sweatshirt is from 1990. The Buff State t-shirt is from 92. When grunge ruled the world, I bought this t-shirt while I was attending Buffalo State College from the school store, and I still have it.
You're wearing a sweatshirt that predates the Nevermind album.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. It's in rotation. And well, this is interesting. So when's going to be the best time to rip off the Band-Aid or whatever? But I did state on the radio that last year was a rough year for me. And I mentioned my divorce. So now it shouldn't sound weird when I say things like, when I had a wife, she knew not to throw that thing away.
Right.
I mean, like now I'll be able to just say those types of things, but yeah, dude, I don't want to derail your conversation. But yeah, I mentioned the divorce on the radio.
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
How did that go? I've been curious about that.
It wasn't, you know what? I didn't do a whole segment on it. When you come back from the new year and you start talking about, do you want this to be a better year? Did you have a great year? Because Alex got married last year. I'm like, dude, you're not going to have a better year this year. You can come in here and say it, but you're not. You're just not going to have a better year. You got married last year. You went on your honeymoon. You've never traveled anywhere. You went to Jamaica. He's never been anywhere. I said, this year's going to suck, bro. Now, me on the other hand, and then that's where I started to all right, just do it. I said, last year sucked. I got divorced. I blew out my leg. I'm still going to physical training twice a week. I said, this year has to be better. And then the room I didn't tell them I was going to say it. Obviously, everybody on the show knows I went through a divorce last year. And it just kind of came out that way. And now it's not one of those things that you want it to define you, You don't want to sit there and be, Rod's the divorced guy. All he does is talk about being divorced.
Right.
It's just something that happened. And then boom, now we talk about the dumb shit we talk about on this show or on my morning show. But the only reason why, because I still catch myself a little bit. So you're asking me about these old clothes. It was something that was talked about with my ex-wife. Look, this fucking shirt and this sweatshirt has been around longer than you. Okay. Don't even look at it. Okay. If I put it in the hamper or whatever, if you don't want to deal with it, fine. But these are important to me. Okay. So
fucking thing. It's been around longer than holy shit. You're sitting here playing your Atari 2600 in your fucking sweatshirt.
Yeah. Why am I not married? Because I have sweatshirts older than my wife. Okay.
I can't figure out what happened. Wow. No shit, huh? Wow.
So kind of like how it came out right here, it kind of came out on the air that way. So I really didn't want to hijack. You had a bit going there, and
I just wanted curious. I was just.
I've got some clothes that are old.
Apparently, Jesus Christ. But you know what? Guys don't. I don't think we give a fuck.
Well, but see, you're not a big concert T-shirt guy. Like you're a weirdo guy. When we had this discussion about like, concert and band shirts and stuff, you don't have a lot of them. But you don't have them from concerts that you went to where I have that stuff.
Right. That's different.
And, like I have a Blue Oyster Cult shirt that I would never fit me ever again, but I don't know. I have it in a box somewhere,
Yeah. But I mean, I'm talking.
That's even older. That's older than, because what you asked about, is there something, I think what you were asking, is there something that's in rotation?
Regular rotation. It's going to get worn.
I have a sweatshirt in rotation from 87, 88, 1990. I have a sweatshirt in rotation from 1990. I cannot fit into my Judas Priest concert shirt from 1987. Now, I do want to lose a few pounds this year, but I'm never getting into the JP or the Iron Maiden, 3/4 sleeve from 1988. Nice. It's just, I'm never getting back into that.
Nice. Dude, that shirt, that sweatshirt, older than our relationship.
Yeah, it predates you.
By about a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, that Nike sweatshirt. I love it. It's awesome. It's so fucking comfortable, dude.
I've probably seen it a couple thousand times over the years. I gotta be honest.
100% you have. I mean, you saw it. Yeah. You saw it a ton of time when we lived together, multiple times. You saw that sweatshirt.
Dude, it's wild. But yeah, no, it was just weird. I come down the stairs. I'm like, holy shit, I'm wearing the same shirt as I am in that picture. And I'm like, oh my God, that was a long time ago. Shirt still rolls. I still got it. It's no big deal. Like my wife, God love her, man, she'll have shit that she's got in closets, right? And then all of a sudden, like, and she's not like super pack rat like you, but she's got some shit, right? She saves. Every once in a while, she'd be like, oh my God, this is back in fashion. And she disappears like Snoopy into his doghouse. Somewhere she goes and brings out shit. She goes, I can wear this again. I'm like, what the fuck? That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a big thing for us girls. It's a big thing for us girls to hang on to something when it recycles back.
I just wear shit. I don't give a fuck.
You do have me thinking about the next time I wear that sweatshirt, I need to kind of like announce to the room, like what they're in the presence of. Dude, I feel like people would like to know that I'm wearing a sweatshirt from 1990.
Is that shirt old?
I remember where I bought it. I was dating Jen with the big boobs. We went to you remember her?
How do you not? So, you're like, this is my girlfriend. I went, are you fucking serious?
We went to like one of those sale things, like Sale of the Century at Niagara Falls Convention Center, whatever. I remember
shirts, $8.
I remember where I bought it. Yeah, I remember when I bought it, the whole thing.
Dude, is your sweatshirt older than some of the people on your show?
Well, wait a minute. Now, because I was dating her and then I was with her when I met you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We met in 91.
Yeah.
So 90. Early. Yeah. So it's 1990.
Dude, is that shirt older than people you work with on your show?
Let's see. That would be 90. I got to do this on my fingers.
That'd be wild. Like, dude, this sweatshirt's older than you are.
2032. That sweatshirt is as old as Alex. The sweatshirt is fucking the same age as Alex.
Oh my God, that's wild.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That's a quality item. That's a quality item, brother. You did a nice job buying that one. That's a quality piece of gear. I like it. All right.
Right, I did. All right. Are we doing a top 5 coming up?
Yeah, dude, this grunge list, I saw it when it came out and I was like, huh. And I looked at it. I'm like, huh, okay. And I was good with it. Like you said, the order is maybe a little bit off by a couple, but let's talk about it after the break.
Do we still have that one sponsor?
We do. They're still those guys just keep on trucking, man. Those pirates don't quit, bro.
You and those guys. You and those guys.
I guess
those guys. The guys that Jason is talking about is the Pirates of the Quarter. So we've just told you Jazz Fest is going to announce. we didn't really talk much about Mardi Gras, but King Cake season is on right now. Mardi Gras is coming up, and Jason and I are going to be on a pirate ship coming up for Mardi Gras. We're going to be rolling in a Mardi Gras parade. It's an awesome time to take a trip to New Orleans. When you go to New Orleans, a French Quarter walking tour like no other. Real pirate history of New Orleans. Book your tour, piratesofthequarter.com. Jason says, those guys, they're still doing those tours, and it's great, man. The reviews are awesome. Check out their socials at Pirates of the Quarter. If you already took the tour, you love pirates, check out the shop page at piratesofthequarter.com. They're wheeling and dealing T-shirts now, okay? They got great designs in there. So kick-ass T-shirts for sale. They you log on. I was just going to say they make a great Christmas present, but
they could for next year.
They make a great Mardi Gras present for somebody. Everything is at piratesofthequarter.com. All their socials at Pirates of the Quarter. I keep looking for them on TikTok. Haven't seen them yet. Jason.
So the number one song, I'm just going back to that sweatshirt. Number one songs in 1990 when you were busting out that Nike sweatshirt running around town. The Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody was big because of the movie Ghost. Okay, that song came out in the 60s, but Ghost was huge in 1990. Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor was big. So that's kind of what was cranking up on the top 40 charts. Ice Ice Baby. I bet you were doing some Vanilla Ice moves in that sweatshirt.
No, dude, I was a rocker, man. I was
Madonna's Vogue. That's what you were into. I'm pretty sure. You know,
dude.
Pretty sure.
I was a rocker. I was rock and roll. I've been rock and roll and out of control my whole life.
Fuck. Yeah. Okay.
Well, what we're
Michael
talking
Bolton.
about, dude, what we're talking about is not too far off of this. Okay. So Alice in Chains facelift is 1990.
Right.
Alice in Chains is before Pearl Jam, before Nirvana Nevermind. Bleach is before that, obviously.
But nobody knew that. I know.
1990.
Yeah.
1990. I was wearing that sweatshirt, listening to a brand new band called Alice in Chains.
Well, when do you think you started listening to that? Alice in Chains. Would you? If you
right when it came out.
Oh, really?
Right when it came out.
Okay.
Right when it came out, I got Alice in Chains. And a little foreshadowing to my list because it's coming up. We were in a magazine because in 1990, I'm playing in the band. The last band, the last real band that I was in. I was in another band after that. But the last band where I was trying to make it. And there was a magazine called Metal Edge Magazine. The page is called Faces in the Crowd. And it's up and coming bands. And they would put like local bands in there in the magazine. And we are on there. And it says for correspondence. And it was our Niagara Falls mailing address. We got letters from all over the world. And chicks are sending us pictures and titties and everything. I mean, it was awesome. When I say that one little blip in that magazine, it generated 500 letters. And we hand wrote everybody back.
That's awesome.
But Faces in the Crowd, Alice in Chains is on the same page as us.
Holy shit.
So worked out pretty good for one band. And then there's me. So
you can't win them all, man. You can't win them all.
So that's how I found out about Alice in Chains. I looked into them because they're on the same page as us. And they were signed. Right. So they were a brand new signed band. We were on that page as an unsigned band, but we were still up and coming. And that's how I found them. So Alice in Chains, I'm on board with them. I'm wearing that Nike sweatshirt, rocking out 1990, Alice in Chains.
In your Sony Walkman?
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah. I'm sure of it, dude.
The Discman came out later, I think, didn't it?
The Discman was after that for sure.
So let's run through the Loudwire top. Yeah, we don't have to go through all of them. I actually had a couple questions for you. Their list is 30 of the top grunge albums.
Yeah.
30 best grunge albums of all time. Well, first of all, they got Stone Temple Pilots in there a couple of times, and I'm cool with that. You know what? And you could just say, well, it's not one of the 30 best. Why is like 16 Stone from Bush not in here unless I missed it?
It's not in there.
Oh, it should be.
And for some reason,
I feel like it should be. You know? I mean, I don't know who the fuck Grunt Truck is. Who the hell is Skin Yard?
College.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, you gotta have, whenever you do these lists as a magazine or online, you gotta have the super too cool Soul 12 albums. You know what I mean? Like average people. I don't even fucking know who those people are. I just thought that Bush 16 Stone was, and you don't have to like it. I'm just saying that was a huge album.
Time frame, and there was plenty of other rock stuff that came out around that time. But it just, grunge was the sound, and it also was a region.
That could be it.
So
West Coast. Yeah.
They were from England,
right?
You know, and Stone Temple Pilots are not from Seattle.
Nope, Southern California.
But it was a regional thing, and it was a sound. So
right. I mean,
for some reason, people are okay with having STP. I mean, I do still call it the Flannel 4, where if you really want to be pure about it, it really is Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, and Soundgarden.
That's it.
I don't say the Flannel 5. I don't include STP, but they were kind of under that category of grunge. I don't know. I mean, everything is regional on this because Temple of the Dog is in there.
Right.
Hole obviously is in there because of, you know,
Tad.
Kurt's filling that hole. Mother Love Bone, Mudhoney is Seattle. Screaming Trees, Seattle. L7 regional. Melvin's.
River.
Yeah. Melvin's is the Spark. That was like Nirvana and Dave Grohl's like biggest influence. So Melvin's, you know, Mad Season. These are Tad. That's all Mudhoney.
Yeah, I guess that maybe that's it. It's not it's not the sound, because Bush sounded like grunge. I mean, they basically ripped it off. You know,
it did. So when it comes to grunge, it's Seattle and STP.
Kind of is. Yeah.
Kind of, you know, I mean, and then poor guys that were in Seattle weren't even included in that. Say hi to Candlebox. Like they were around during that whole time and they weren't included in that party.
But they weren't grunge sounding. They were a little cleaner sound, but yeah.
Right. But we'll talk about it when we talk about our top 5. Okay, so they didn't put Nirvana at number 1. And I loved them for that. I loved Loudwire for that. When they put out their top 30, they put Alice in Chains Dirt at 1, Nevermind at 2, Pearl Jam 10 at 3, Soundgarden Super Unknown, Pearl Jam Versus. So there's your top 5. And when you look at this, grunge, according to their list, grunge had a 5-year shelf life. Down on the upside is 1996.
Right.
So 1990 to 1996, 6 years. I guess you got to look at that as the grunge heyday.
Totally. That's it.
I mean, Soundgarden did put out other stuff, but when you look at where, I mean, it was 5 fucking glorious years. You know, it really was awesome. Now, it doesn't mean that it was over. It's just that's when all that stuff came out. Now you had plenty of years afterwards of playing the shit out of that, you know, in regular and heavy rotation. So the churning of the music coming out from 1991 to 95, that for you and I, like that is the absolutely the greatest time in music, because we were a part of it. We were living it. We were at the radio station. We were the same age as them.
Yeah,
It was a musical revolution that hadn't happened since 1968.
Right.
You know, there was a musical revolution in 67, 68. This was our musical revolution. That's what put Gen X on the map.
What's interesting about this is, and I know this is strictly grunge, but at the same time, you also had Weezer was blowing up, Green Day was blowing up, Offspring was blowing up, all these other bands were blowing up. So it's just like this barrage. Like every time new music came on, you're like, fuck, it's all great. It's all really good stuff. Like nowadays, I'm like, that song's okay. I don't like it. It's all right. It's okay. It was just like one after the next. You're like, fuck, everything was a heavy hitter coming at you. You know, it was great.
Yeah. And, you know, and you got to look at the spark before all of that. And I always say it, man, Jane's Addiction. Mm-hmm. Jane's Addiction, you know, and I would put the Cult as important too. but Jane's Addiction for sure. You
Faith
know,
No
when
More.
we talk about Nirvana kicking down the door, man, those sparks, and Chili Peppers were around before
Chili
that.
Peppers were around too. Yep. Those were there, but then all of a sudden, Nirvana just went, "Hey, we're here. Look out. Get the fuck out of the way." Yeah, it's how a lot of things happen. You get the sparks, and all of a sudden, you have that perfect storm, and that was Nirvana's Nevermind. But it was weird they didn't put it number one. And did they say the criteria? I didn't read the article. Why would I? 30 best grunge albums of all time. What does that mean?
It's 5 years. I mean, grunge was around for 5 years.
Yeah.
There's songs that are disco songs today,
Right.
but they're not called disco because disco had a time period. When you listen to The Weeknd, it's a disco song, okay? Like a dance song, a pop song, a dance song. It's a disco song, but you don't call it disco because disco had it had its years. So it's all rock, but for that time period, the media wanted to put some sort of a label on it, and they called it grunge. So it really is. You got to look at that 5-year window.
Let me ask you this question, and then we'll get back to this, because we would never just dive in and do our top 5 list. We got to talk around it for an hour. When you listen to and not all of it, but there are a lot of these songs, the big hits. Let me put it this way. I'll go back and listen to a Led Zeppelin song. I'll go back and listen to whatever, and it sounds old because the technology wasn't that great back then. Still sounds good. Led Zeppelin did a great job in the studio. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's some songs, a lot of songs sound old. And maybe it's just because I grew up with it. A lot of this doesn't feel or sound old the way it's produced. You listen to Hunger Strike. It doesn't sound old. You know what I'm getting at? I know it's an old ass song. I know it's as old as your t-shirt or your Nike sweatshirt. But like, I can go back and listen to a lot of shit and it just, that's fucking old. A lot of this, it still sounds fairly fresh, and it depends on the song and the way it was produced, but it doesn't feel old to me is what I'm getting at.
There's 2 ways to look at a song if it sounds old to you. Does kind of what you're talking about is the recording technique that they used at the time. Does it make it sound dated?
Yeah.
The style of music to somebody young, the songs that you mentioned, all of these songs, they sound old to them. Correct. To somebody that's younger, those songs sound old. Somebody that grew up with Led Zeppelin, I don't think they sound old.
Right.
Because that's all they've ever known.
So maybe that's it. It's just that.
Songs sound old to the generation that comes after them. So, but when you go and if you're talking about how they were recorded, and do they have like a lack of technology in 1990? No, they hold up. They hold up to everything that you can do now. But they don't sound like Imagine Dragons. They don't sound like 21 Pilots,
Correct.
So because of what technology is available now and a different sound. Right.
Because there's a lot of older bands I like. And I'll listen to it and go, it's a shame they didn't have today's technology to kind of sweeten some of these things up a little bit, And I'll do that with a lot of old recordings. I've been listening to a ton of old jazz lately because my kid's into it. So I'm listening to jazz, and it's fucking unbelievable. The more I learn, the more I'm like, what am I doing? This is great. Where have I been? But you hear it and you're like, gosh, man, that shit is so buried off in the mix. You're like, come on, bring it up. So, but I don't feel that way with most.
That jazz stuff might have been recorded live.
Oh, a lot of it is. You could tell.
Live,
it's right down the middle.
In a room where, when I say live, when Pearl Jam is recording 10 in 1990, the drums are in an isolated booth. Correct. And the guitar player's in a separate room and everything. Your jazz albums, they're all in a room. And the big difference is the drums are mic'd up. Everything's mic'd up. But the drums are also bleeding into all these other mics. So that's where you're getting that
weird.
Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it's muddy. It's different.
Right. Because I've gotten into these conversations with my son because we'll listen to a lot of different shit on the way to school. Like we'll start talking. I'll say, hey, whoa, punch this up. And we were actually listening to a Doors song the other day. And I said, now listen to this, the way they had to produce it, because it's 4-track. So you've got your guitar in the right channel, your organ in the left channel, your drums and your vocals down the middle, and your bass is in there as well. Just because you were listening out of a mono, your radio stations, and in your car, it was a mono speaker. Everything was a mono speaker. Didn't matter if it was panned right and left. But now when you listen to it, it really sounds cool. And I said, definitely listen to that old shit on your headphones, because you're going to go for a fucking journey. And then if you can, pan just to one side or the other, like all that old Hendrix shit.
You'll miss half the song.
You'll miss half the song, but it's kind of cool. If you just want to hear his guitar, you'll hear more of it and different vocals and stuff. So anyway,
the Beatles changed. The Beatles did all of that. I mean, the Beatles invented all of that. I mean, Sgt. Pepper,
George Martin and the Beatles,
was the absolute game changer. And that's when the Beatles said, we can no longer play live. Number one, we're too big. But number two, what we want to make and what we want to do, and we want to push this studio as far as we can. We can't recreate this live. You can't play that stuff live.
A lot of orchestra behind you.
The technology wasn't there, but the technology was there to bring in Ravi Shankar and have him play his sitar and stuff. He's not going out on the road with you, and they didn't have like a laptop where they could just play that track on top of them. So whatever was played, it had to be live. They could no longer reproduce the music that they were making in the studio. The Beatles invented that.
I know, it's great, isn't it? Yeah, the studio stuff is fun when you start breaking it down. Anyway, I know I got us off a little bit farther, but what is your top 5 favorite, your top 5 favorite grunge songs, or grunge albums of all time?
So I'm going to cheat on this one a little bit.
Here we go. First one of the year already out of the gate. Yeah. Jesus.
Well, because if you look at the list that Loudwire put out, and this band is so important. Mother Love Bone, their Apple album, they only put out one full-length album. They had an EP out, and then they put out an album called Apple. Right when the album was coming out, Andrew Wood dies. Stone Gossard is in the band, who's the rhythm guitar player of Pearl Jam. Jeff Ament, the bass player. They're in this band. The lead singer dies. What are we going to do? That's how we get Pearl Jam.
Right.
In 1992, in 1990, I did not know Mother Love Bone. But I did know Mother Love Bone in 92 when they packaged up the EP and they packaged up the album and they called it Mother Love Bone. I didn't know when I bought it, but I was early on that. Mother Love Bone, I guess it's called the compilation album. It's just called Mother Love Bone, though.
Right.
It's the 1992 one. I got that as my number 5.
What? Cool.
I love that album. Andrew Wood was this unbelievable, charismatic lead vocalist, and he was just a character, and everybody loved him. Unfortunately, he had a horrible drug addiction. He was roommates with Chris Cornell for a while. The song Wood is about Andrew Wood from Alice in Chains. Temple of the Dog is a tribute to Andrew Wood. And then we found out just a couple of years ago that Candlebox, not invited to the grunge party, Far Behind, is about Andrew Wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I just figured that out too. I was like, holy shit.
So Mother Love Bone, I think the album is unbelievably important. They have it at number 13. I have it in at number 5. Whoa. And I love, love, love the album.
Gotcha.
In at number 4 is Stone Temple Pilots Core.
Yeah.
And Jason and I will have a love affair with that album because we got it when we were in college. We're doing a metal show together. We heard the band for the first time together. Nobody had heard of them ever. College radio got albums before radio stations got albums because they know that we would play it because we didn't have to go through anybody. We just, if it sounded good, we played it.
Yep. And
you and I listened to Sex Type Thing and we were like, what the fuck is this?
That was our exact words too.
You and I are listening to this album and immediately Jason and I are doing this stupid college radio show that 10 people listen to. And we can't wait to play and get it on the air immediately.
Can't wait.
And we may have gotten it in like the day before our show. Our show is on Friday.
Friday's at noon, 12:30.
Yeah, and we may have gotten the album in on Wednesday or Thursday.
Right.
And just could not wait to play it.
No, because it was fucking so different and sounded so, it was just so just in your face, and it was just awesome. Still great. I still love hearing that song. And I haven't listened to it in a long time, and I heard it the other day and I went, holy shit.
But that album is
still
packed. There's 6 bangers on that. There's 6 bangers on Core, you know?
Singles, songs that never saw the light of day. They're still great on there. Cracker Man is a great song. So anyway, Core, very nice. I like it.
Core's in at number 4. Number 3, I just felt like I could not put Nirvana Nevermind on there. We play the shit out of it. It's our Led Zeppelin, it's our whatever, but that doesn't take away from being an unbelievable album.
Right.
It really is. It deserves all the accolades. It deserves everything that people talk about, and it's as important as everything and that's written about it. Every list that it's on, it probably deserves to be number 1 on my list. It probably deserves to be number 1 on the Loudwire list, but they didn't. They put it at 2. I have it in at number 3. My number 2. Now, the same story I told you about Stone Temple Pilots, Jason and I have that same story with Alice in Chains' Dirt. Yep. It's their number 2 album, and him and I are listening to that together for the first time. And we're like, fuck, this is so great.
So good.
But because of what I've already shared with you, and it's not a grunge album, it's a rock album. They were going out on tour. They opened for Van Halen.
Yeah, 92.
They opened for Poison. Alice in Chains, Facelift. I love that album. It's because it's their introduction. I know people are going to say Dirt's a better album. I can't remove me being introduced to a sound and being introduced to a band. And it just was too great. You know, Them Bones, Man in the Box. It just sounded like nothing I'd ever heard before. And it was before all this Nirvana shit happened.
I know, it's nuts. Actually, Them Bones was on Dirt.
You're right. Them Bones is on Dirt.
But Sea of Sorrow, Man in the Box.
Yes.
All that shit. Fucking great.
So Alice in Chains, it's a rock album. It's not a grunge album. Dirt would be a grunge album, but it was my introduction to the band. It's important to me. It's number 2. And my number 1, I think we've talked about this album as much as we've talked about Kiss and fucking Van Halen and Guns N' Roses. I've called it a perfect album before, and Pearl Jam 10 is an absolute perfect album. And to me, the best album that came out in the best 5 years of music of my life. That's the best piece of music that came out.
Wow.
In that unbelievable pivotal 5 years. Pearl Jam 10. It's a perfect album. What
great.
Did we do? Did we put that up against Guns N' Roses' Appetite and Van Halen 1?
Yeah.
And we went track for track, right?
Fucking nuts. That was great.
Yeah, it's because those other albums are perfect albums, but Pearl Jam 10, it was number 3 on the Loudwire, number 1 in my heart.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so nice. Well, I'm going to start out at number 5 with Pearl Jam's 10 album.
Number 5?
Number 5. Now,
remember, friend off, dude. All those nice things I said about you. Friend off.
When does that start? Yeah, 10 from Pearl Jam. I loved all the hits on it. I never took the time back in the day to kind of really put the album on and go and listen to it. It was many years later that I finally did that and went, oh shit, I've been missing all this.
Once, Porch, all that
Yes,
stuff.
I mean, Once is probably my favorite song off of it. I love that song. And again, we beat the shit out of all those other songs, all the hits, but they still sound good today. They still sound great. So 10 from Pearl Jam at number 5.
All right.
Number 4, I got the Temple of the Dog album. Love it. I love it from beginning to end. It's Cornell. It's them. It's, you realize it's pre-Pearl Jam when they made that, when they made Hunger Strike, Eddie Vedder was down the hall working on the 10 album. And Chris Cornell was having trouble. It wasn't supposed to be a duet. Hunger Strike wasn't supposed to be a duet, and he was having issues getting the low stuff right, which sounds crazy to me. But he wasn't feeling it right. And they're like, "Hey, Ed, can you sing this part?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course." And then fucking magic happened. And then later, 10 comes out. So love the Temple of the Dog album, and like it more and more today.
Yeah,
at number 4.
It's a great album. I mean, it's a great album, and I just gave you my top 5 grunge albums and never mentioned my fucking favorite singer of all time in my top 5 grunge albums. Yeah, and you got my favorite singer in yours.
Well, I'll get it right for us. Don't worry. I got you.
All right.
Number 3, Core, Stone Temple Pilots. Still great. I mean, it's still great. It's still great. And that started my love affair with Scott Weiland. It really did. At first, I was like, who's this guy trying to be all Eddie Vedder? Remember when that came out, though? There was that whole, like, they're just copying Pearl Jam and Nirvana and stuff. And there was that time period. But once the singles kept on being unleashed from the album, I think people went, oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. Oh, okay. These guys are really good. Oh, okay. They're great. Core from Stone Temple Pilots, still amazing to this day. Number 2.
Just in their defense, too, because they did take a lot of shit. They're not in Seattle. They're not pals with those guys. And those albums are being recorded at the same time.
Right.
Core's 92.
Yeah. So they're not going, oh, it better sound like this.
So it's not fair, the crap that they took, because they weren't sitting around listening to Pearl Jam and said, we should do something that sounds like this,
Correct. So, that's where, going back to Bush and 16 Stone, that comes out in like 95. Gavin Rossdale was in the United States in 1991 and 1992. And all the grunge shit was all over the radio. He went back and does the Bush album. So he could be ripping it off, which he was. That sound, he loved it. So he copied it. But Stone Temple Pilots totally different. Number 2, Dirt, Alice in Chains. Dirt, so great from beginning to end. I just was listening to Angry Chair the other day, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about how just brutal that song is. It's just that album. I mean, I realized it was written while they were all on heroin. It's about heroin and all this other shit, but it's fucking brutal when you listen to it. And then number 1, my love affair with Scott Weiland continued and really blossomed nicely with Purple from Stone Temple Pilots. I can put that album on today and go crank it up and be just as happy as a peach.
Vaseline,
Interstate Love Song, all that shit, man. Love all of it. Love all of it. I dug up some numbers, sales numbers, just to kind of put some perspective here.
Nothing's going to come close to Nevermind.
No, but I thought it was kind of interesting. And I just went through the top 5 of Loudwire's list. Pearl Jam's Versus, which I love that album too. That almost made my top 5. Sold 8 million copies. Okay. Versus Super Unknown from Soundgarden, 9 million copies. This is worldwide. 9 million copies. 10 from Pearl Jam, 16 million.
All right.
Alice in Chains, Dirt, 6.5 million. Nevermind, 30 million. Yeah, I would like to hear what those guys would say about why they put Dirt number 1. Nevermind is your obvious. And maybe that's just why they wanted to have a conversation starter. It's that premeditated, let's fucking throw a little wrench into the works, get people talking.
I like that they didn't put it at number 1. And it's not number 1. I mean, again, for me, it's just
right. I
couldn't do a top 5. Now I'm just trying to make a headline somewhere by not putting that in there.
Correct.
But Pearl Jam 10, this, I didn't even think twice. Now I had to kind of really move things around, but it was easy what my number 1 was going to be. And I am not the biggest Pearl Jam fan. As a matter of fact, I'm one and done with them. You say you like Versus?
Love it.
It's okay.
Love it.
I like a couple of songs here and there, This is good. Okay, Better Man's all right. It is a good song, This is okay here. I like a couple of things here and there. In My Tree, Rear View Mirror. There's some great stuff that I love. And then even a couple of years ago, when they put out that song, The Sirens from the Signal.
Great song. Great.
Like, oh my God, this sounds like an old Pearl Jam song. Great. I like the album 10, and I think I like 7 other Pearl Jam songs.
Kind of the same way, though. I might have a few more.
But I think that's it. I mean, that's my honest answer to you. Right. Nirvana, I kind of love everything. I do. I'm sorry. I know it's overplayed. Alice in Chains, I love everything. STP, love everything. Even the weird stuff. Even fucking Sour Girl, I think is cool.
It's a great song. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? Fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. God.
But Pearl Jam, that one album, and I'm being generous here, 7 songs that are not on that debut album. And everything else is crap to me.
Yeah, they had that period when they were fighting with Ticketmaster. They put all these weird albums out. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Vitology, their 3rd album. I like Corduroy, Better Man. I'm done. I'm pretty much done. And then they went off and did a bunch of shit. Didn't care for a few albums. And then they did Yield. There's a great song called Given to Fly on that album. Love that.
Given to Fly is amazing.
Fucking so great. And then they did some shit. Didn't care. Sirens came out. I'm like, oh, cool. And then they, Yeah, it's weird with Pearl Jam. It's hit and miss. And I'm sure your purist Pearl Jam guys will be like, well, you fucking got to go back and listen to the album. I'm not going to listen to the album. Just not.
They just, for the same reason that I'm not a Fish guy and stuff. I mean, the name of the band is Pearl Jam. They don't care about song structure. They don't care if there's a fucking hook. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm a product of what I was raised with. Verse, chorus, verse, I do want a fucking hit song. Now, putting it on in the background and you're barbecuing and stuff. Okay, great. That's awesome. Nobody gives a shit. All right. Some shitty Pearl Jam song on in the background. Okay. The burgers are great.
Fish is not. Fucking Fish. They got one song and they're still playing it?
I don't know. It just kind of goes on forever.
It's not for me. I can't get into that stuff. It's just not for me.
Screaming Trees, Sweet Oblivion came in at number 15. And I told you that I read the book of the lead singer. And
Mark Lanigan.
If you're looking for a book, Mark Lanigan's book, it's so great. It's a top 5 rock book all time for me. Have I read them all? Not even close. There's too many of them.
Books.
But for me personal, it's a top 5 rock book. It's such a great story, dude.
Really?
Yeah. What a miserable, drugged out, super talented guy, but the thing about, you don't know Mark Lanigan and you don't know Screaming Trees. You only know that one song, Nearly Lost You. But the whole book, he's hanging out and doing drugs with Lane Staley daily. Mike Starr shows up at his house. The bass player of Alice in Chains shows up wearing a loincloth and he's booking the place. He knows that he's wanted to come in so that his buddies can come in and rob him, because he's so strung out. And then the day Kurt Cobain kills himself, he calls Mark Lanigan and Mark Lanigan doesn't pick up the phone because Mark Lanigan's a piece of shit, and then he's got to live with that the rest of his life. That what if he could have talked Kurt out of it and maybe Kurt could have been around a couple more days. That's how good the book is. It's like all these players that we're talking about. It's that good.
But you got to look at, and I've thought about this for years. Like, what the fuck, Seattle? How is it that depressing up there? Like, what's the suicide rate up there with everyone doing drugs? And I get it, they're all in the music scene. Yeah. And one guy starts doing it, so he's cool, so you try it. I get that, but god damn, how brutal is it up there? I've never been to Seattle, so I don't know. But it seems like a lot of people live there, and it can't be all bad, right?
Well, from that, I mean, that's where.
I mean, you can't judge a whole city on that. I get it, but wow. I mean, everybody's like strung out on heavy fucking drugs, man.
And there's a darkness about it, and there's a struggle about it. And from that struggle comes this amazing music. So if you look at the steel town that Black Sabbath came from, it's a fucking steel town. Everyone's poor, and there's a struggle.
Right.
And when you see guys that are in Avenged Sevenfold, and I just feel like all those guys had a fucking in-ground pool growing up. And
They look like they did too, right? Like if your hair is too pretty,
No. they were sleeved out at 18. Where'd you get the fucking money for that?
Right.
And they all had in-ground swimming pools.
Right. Right.
Avenged Sevenfold didn't come from strife and struggle.
No.
And that's why I don't give them a pass.
That's where, everyone always says,
kids.
Great art only comes from struggle and pain. Well, that's not true, but it certainly seems like it when it comes to music. When you think about the shitty place that Ozzy grew up and all that, and then you look at Seattle and the whole grunt. I mean, I've always said this, you're a product of your environment. You know what? When you listen to grunge music and you get the idea of Seattle being rainy all the time and depressing and heroin, that music, that makes perfect damn sense. That makes so much sense coming out of there. Once you put all the pieces together, you're like, yeah, no wonder that fucking music sounds like that. I'd be depressed too.
It's why I think because we grew up with it, but why I gravitate so much to so much Canadian music. I like my fucking rock coming from a band that rehearsed in mom's basement, and the sky was gray. It was fucking cold outside, and there's a bunch of the few factories that are open are churning out smoke in the downtown.
Yeah.
That's where fucking music comes from. That's where rock comes from. I talked about that with Monster Truck, and I kind of like used that same explanation, and they said, man, you just painted that picture brilliantly, because they're from Hamilton, I think. And, you're in mom's basement, man. You're in mom's basement because there's nothing else to do because it's fucking cold outside. So you're going to sit there and perfect your instrument. And Canada did that, man. The players in Canada, the bands, when I was playing, they were just better than us. They were just better players. All of those bands up there, just the original bands, cover bands, they were superior musicians. I don't know what it is, but it was just over the bridge where we grew up. But there were really good players in Buffalo too. I mean, people were really, really good at their instruments. We didn't produce something like, like what you got out of Seattle, but the musicianship still, it's just fucking phenomenal in these cold weather cities.
I'm with you because I mean, a lot of the bands that we were when we were coming up in Buffalo in the early '90s and stuff, and going out and seeing shows, there was a fucking great number of really good bands, and they were all doing the same thing, fucking working in factories during the day or whatever job, and then practicing their asses off all night and then gigging on the weekends. And it was just harsh. It was all harsh, but it wasn't Seattle harsh. When you go back, I mean, you want to fucking, if you're ever a little depressed, here's what you never do. Go put on that Mad Season album.
I thought you were going to have that in your top 5.
7. I had it number 7. I love that album.
You liked that album a little bit more than me, but again,
Loved it.
Mark Lanigan.
Yep.
Screaming Trees is on that album, and he is completely strung out.
So is Lane.
And so is Lane. Those guys are doing heroin together. They're doing heroin every day because if you don't, he talks about it, you get sick. You have to do heroin just to not get sick.
Jeez.
So, and then they do more and more of it, and then you need more to level yourself out. So that's what those guys were doing. If you go back and listen, they are fucking wasted. They're wasted on that album.
So great. It's such a great album. My God, is it depressing?
It's really dark.
So fucking dark, man. All right, that's enough about Seattle because I'm starting to freak out now. I got to go out and look at the bright light or something, man. Any final thoughts, Rod?
Yeah, I'm divorced.
All right. Well, okay.
I mean,
you can wear that fucking sweatshirt all you want.
Well, because I said it on the air. I'm like, all right, somehow I'm going to fucking say it on this fucking stupid podcast. But yeah, it sucks. It's very difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. And people can make it harder than it needs to be. I'll leave it at that.
All good. I got you.
I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so I am looking forward to this year being a much better year. As much as I laugh about that. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. So I am looking forward to this year being like this awesome year. I still have work to do on my leg. I still can't run yet. I still have physical therapy to do. But it's gonna be a fucking great year. You and I are gonna get together soon for Mardi Gras. I can't wait for that. And then I hope on Friday you send me a text and you go, motherfuckers, sometimes we know what we're talking about. That's what I want you to text me when Jazz Fest comes out with their announcement and Foo Fighters are on that lineup, because then that'll be another trip that I get to come and hang out with you.
Boom.
And then boom, man, there's nothing better than hanging with you, Jazz Fest, Foo Fighters. It's that's my church, you know? Those are things that I need to look forward to. And I do want that. They're going to be great things. They're going to be great things for me this year. So super excited about this year.
Dude, I'm excited about you, taking the bull by the horns and attacking 2023 like that, man. You got to have the positive attitude. You got to. And that kind of, oddly enough, leads me around to my final thought. The final thought is this: take a beat, count to 10. Okay. And here's why I say that. I dropped my kid off at school the other day, and I'm just cruising down the street. I'm going down side streets. I'm only doing 30 miles an hour. And I'm cruising, and then all of a sudden I see a guy on a bicycle, grown man, going to work, riding his bike, trying to do the right thing. Maybe can't afford a car, whatever. A guy swerves and kind of bumps him on his bike. And the guy fucking does the whole, whoa, shit, wipes out. The guy who swerved and hit him stops the car. The guy on the bike gets up and punches his window. Obviously, probably busted his hand. The window didn't break. The guy grabs the mirror on the side of the car and rips it off the guy's car and throws it on the ground. And then the guy in the car takes off. Your boy's bike is under the front tire and being dragged down the street underneath.
You're watching this from behind?
25 feet behind.
Wow.
So I stop. So that way traffic will stop behind me. So no one tries to go too fast. And I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm not getting involved either because, guns. And people are crazy these days on the road. So I kind of held back and I blocked traffic thinking, hey, this motherfucker's out here, standing here, running down the street. Let's not get him hit. He's already having a bad day. So the guy in the car just hauls ass and or in the SUV, hauls ass, takes a turn, gone. So I pull up. I go, bro, the guy on the bike, he's standing there sweating, freaking out, doesn't know what's going on. And I go, hey, man, are you okay? And he goes, oh, fuck. I couldn't get the guy's license plate. And he's like, he's in overdrive because your adrenaline is just on fire, right?
Yeah.
He's like, did you get the license plate? I'm like, no, I didn't get a fucking license plate. I was watching you and the other guy, hoping you didn't get killed. And I'm trying to block traffic behind me. I go, sorry, dude. And then I'm like, dude, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm okay. And then he walked off and went over to the sidewalk and sat down. I said, you're sure you're okay? And he's like, yeah, I got it. I'm fine. I'm calling the cops. I'm like, okay. I went to work. My point is, why the fuck did that happen? Like, if you fuck up and you bump a guy, you didn't see him on a bike, I get it. Don't just fucking take off and be a dick about it. Apologize, That's why I say people get so keyed up so fast. And I think it's a lot of social media. You know how that goes, man. You post something and it's innocuous, but next thing you know, there's an argument about something completely different going on. And you're like, what just happened? And it happens in seconds. Take a beat. Think about it. Count to 10. I'm telling you, man, it'll help your day, your life. Count to fucking 10 before you react. And I'm guilty of it myself. I fucking snap.
You don't. You don't yell. You don't snap. You don't do any of that.
I snap inwardly and I bottle it up. I snap. Count to 10. Count to 10. Keep that positive vibe going. Keep that positive going. That's what's
all right. Socials. I think we got to start putting shit back up on social media.
Yeah, probably back to work.
At Playpants Pod. If you're listening still, thank you for listening to all of this. If you're watching it, maybe you don't know that you can watch it. It's on our YouTube channel at Playpants Pod. So YouTube, Facebook, and I guess we put it up. We do have Twitter and we've got Instagram too. Yep. So thank you guys for checking this out, man. Smash the subscribe button and we'll see if we can string together a couple of these in a row as we are on the countdown to Mardi Gras right now.
God damn, can't wait.
I can't wait either, man. All right, bro.
I'm out.
Good to see you, man. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Later.
Let's go. It's time. Put on pants.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. See us on our YouTube channel and follow our social media pages at Playpants Pod.